God, free agency every year just drives me crazy. You have players that are not good getting paid like they are. Every year, it seems like. Even when every year there are horrible contracts and they age horribly and all this stuff happens, blah, 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 and you make all these these comments and the views, and everyone just goes crazy on them and how bad they age, and yet GMs are like, we'll do the same thing every year and see what happens. And let me tell you guys one thing. This is not a video of me bashing on the players, because it's not a player's fault if he's overpaid for something. It's the GM's fault for giving him that contract. So if you're a player that's been overpaid and you didn't really deserve it, congratulations. You guys just made bank, so I have no complaints there with you. You should be happy. You should just be screaming through the roof, going crazy, because you guys are now, multi-millionaires in some cases for not being that great of a player. But without any further ado, it's time we talk about NHL free agency. Now, I'm not going to be going in depth on everything that happened today because, as you guys can see, a lot of things happened. It is also very late in the day for me already. I go to work, and I missed all of free agency. I was in the middle of my work day. On top of that, I had to go get my COVID shot, so my arm is killing me already. And, shout out to being fully vaccinated. Happy about that. But other than that, I got a vacation coming up. I am going crazy right now, and I can't spend the next hour and a half talking about every signing because it feels like there were 1,000 of them, and honestly, I know you guys don't want to hear that. So as Jets fans out there, majority of my viewers being Jets fans, I thought I would talk about which Jets unrestricted free agents left the team, the contracts they've signed with, and the players the Winnipeg Jets signed, although they only being 2 very minor league Moose deals. But point being, we're still going to talk about that. So without any further ado, make sure to drop a subscription regardless of the team that you root for. I'm a biased Jets fan who shares his thoughts on all things hockey related, so if you're ever interested in seeing another fan's perspective, definitely consider dropping a subscription. It really helps grow the channel. Any support you guys can give is always greatly appreciated. But without any further ado, I think it's time we jump into the first contract we're going to be talking about, and that is Derek Forbort. Now, if you haven't already seen old news, Derek Forbort has signed a 3-year deal with an annual cap hit of $3 million, so a $9 million total contract with the Boston Bruins. Not a good deal. Derek Forbort obviously was a decent defenseman for the Winnipeg Jets. I will give him credit there. Even though he sucked at the end of the season, and especially in that second round, I will say one thing, that he was very competent and very, very good for a long time. And honestly, for about, I would say, a quarter of the season, Derek Forbort looked to be one of the steals of the past free agency. He looked really good with the Jets. He actually had some offensive spark to his game, which hadn't been seen in years, and he looked really, really good. But the problem is, after a while, he got burnt out and giving way too much of a role. Being a second pairing guy with Neil Pionk, and he tried to do too much offensively. He couldn't balance out the game. Him and Pionk at times were a good pairing, but for the most part it wasn't. So honestly, I'm happy to see Derek Forbort go, because like I said already, when you go from Derek Forbort and Tucker Poolman to Brendan Dillon and Nate Schmidt within the span of 24 hours in the Jets case, I think that's a pretty big win. But for Boston fans out there watching this video, Derek Forbort, I don't think he's worth $3 million, so that's not a great contract, I would say. But nonetheless, I think he will help your team out, because he's not a terrible player. He's not even the worst defenseman we're going to be talking about in this video by far. So he's definitely competent. I definitely think 3 years is slight overpay. He's not a top 4 guy. He's definitely better suited on a third pairing. He's reliable as hell, I would say, on a third pairing. So definitely a good player to have, just not at a $3 million cap hit, in my opinion. But with that being said, Boston, you're in a pretty good position right now with your defense and Forbort to add to that group as well. So we'll see how it goes. I think he'll be a good fit in Boston with how he plays. Hopefully he just won't be given too much of a role like he was given in Winnipeg. If he can settle into a more defensive-minded role and be a little offensive and jumping on the rushes at times, I think he'll be a much better player for Boston in the future than what he was with the Winnipeg Jets. Now, the next player we're going to be talking about is forward Trevor Lewis. Now, forward Trevor Lewis honestly was one of the only guys on that fourth line, vet line of Matthew Perreault, Thompson, and Lewis that I actually kind of liked. Matthew Perreault, obviously, I liked, but not on that line. He was much better suited everywhere else in the lineup at times. But Lewis coming in on that PTO early in January after really being injured for the last year and a half, I feel like, not playing really a lot of hockey, he comes into Winnipeg and had a pretty solid year. His numbers obviously weren't great, and I know when you look at his advanced stats, you're like, oh my god. But let me tell you, Calgary fans, for depth to have as a guy on that fourth line, a veteran, a guy who can kill penalties, who honestly does have a little bit of offense at times and can score some shorthanded goals, we saw that with Winnipeg, I think this is a good move for you. You know why it's a good move? It's only $800K at 1 year. If he's a full-time player for you, then it's a little yikes, but honestly, if he's a vet guy that can come in and even play 20 to 30 games for you potentially or less, I think this is a win for Calgary. I do like Lewis a lot for that veteran presence on a team. Even though I'm always about pushing the youth up, I still think it's important to have veteran guys in the press box, and just to have potentially at times to insert into your lineup due to matchup. So Trevor Lewis going to Calgary, I think it's a great signing. I actually think he'll do pretty well in Calgary with the way that team is built. So, Trevor Lewis, wish you all the best, man. Really, really happy that you were able to come in and play for the Jets, a Stanley Cup champion as well, Calgary, so that's great to have have a winning veteran leadership presence on your team. Like, he was great with Winnipeg, I felt like, and he was a great mentor, I feel like, to some of those younger guys in the bottom six. So hopefully he'll be the same type of role model for those guys you have in Calgary. Now, the other big vet guy that has left the Winnipeg Jets is unrestricted free agent Nate Thompson. Nate Thompson has signed an identical deal to the Trevor Lewis deal, 1 year, $800K, with the Philadelphia Flyers. Thompson goes back to Philly, where he was a pretty good fit with a few years ago, and honestly, I like this move. Thompson at times looked good, and at times he looked really mediocre, and at times he looked garbage. But for the most part, Thompson, I felt like, was really invisible for the Jets' time he spent with here. He wasn't ever noticeable. Yeah, he had a goal here and there, I believe, but other than that, it really wasn't a good overall experience with Nate Thompson. I much would rather have David Gustafsson centering that fourth line, and I hope to God that we get to see David Gustafsson this coming up season as a Jets fan and looking at that lineup and the potential. But yeah, Nate Thompson going over to the Philadelphia Flyers. I think this is a good move for Philly because, like I said, with Lewis, even though Nate Thompson, I would say, was worse than what Lewis was, Nate Thompson does provide some veteran leadership and some skill. So if you have him as a press box guy and you have hopefully some younger guys playing, and also he is a guy that brings a lot of experience and grit, he's the perfect type of Broad Street bully, old school Philly teammate that you're going to want to have. So I think this is a good move for Philly because it's, again, cheap. 1 year at $800K. If he's a full-time player for you, if it's yikes, if he's a guy just to have in the press box, then it's definitely not a bad move. Depth is always important at the NHL, and Nate Thompson definitely is depth, and serviceable depth at that. Now, the next two big ones are obviously the big attractions for the Winnipeg Jets, detractions, I should be saying, when you look at the players who have left, and that is goaltender Laurent Brossoit has signed a 2-year, $4.65 million contract over that span of 2 years with an annual cap hit of $2.325 million with the Vegas Golden Knights. So, yeah, honestly, this is a really, really good move for Vegas because Laurent Brossoit is a seriously underrated goaltender. When you look at his numbers with Winnipeg ever since coming over, he's been very, very solid. Even in that off year in between the 3 years he was here for, I did really, really like Laurent Brossoit. He's been fantastic, honestly, when you really think about what he came from in Edmonton and the progression he's shown in his game. I think he might have starter potential still in him. He might not be a great starter, but he's definitely a guy that could be a really good tandem with Robin Lehner. I think Laurent Brossoit is honestly the perfect backup for Robin Lehner for the Vegas Golden Knights. As a guy who's going to see a lot of Vegas in the West, I am not happy to see Laurent Brossoit on a team there, especially with a team like Vegas, who the Jets could potentially match up in the playoffs if they go deep, because Laurent Brossoit is really, really good depth, and if you use Brossoit and Lehner at even a slight tandem or maybe 8 to 1 ratio of games, Lehner to Laurent Brossoit, that could be extremely deadly rotation of goaltending. Laurent Brossoit is a very reliable backup. He was very good in Winnipeg, and also to have a good defense and like he has in Vegas in front of him. Vegas also re-signing Alex Martinez, so their defense is still going to be good. So I think Laurent Brossoit is going to have a great year, and honestly, Lawrence, congratulations on the contract, and honestly, congratulations for getting your career really going again. I know how rough it was for you in Edmonton, so I'm really happy that you were able to come over to Winnipeg, succeed, and be a great backup for us, and now make a pretty damn good contract with the Vegas Golden Knights. I wish you all the best. An absolute stud. So yeah, I'm really happy to see him get paid. Sad to see him leave the Jets, I should say. But, it's going to be interesting, and honestly, I had a feeling Brossoit was going to be leaving. I don't think the Jets were going to be offering him a contract similar to this, and we were honestly lucky to get him for that extra year it was on his deal, re-signing him last year. So I'm happy that we have Laurent Brossoit when we did. He's a great piece of Jets, history in that goaltending spot. Probably one of our best backup goaltenders we've had in a very long time. So, Laurent Brossoit, I wish you the absolute best in Vegas. And Vegas fans, you got a hell of a great backup goaltender in Brossoit for the future now. And ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've all been waiting for. Tucker frickin' Poolman has left the Winnipeg Jets. Hallelujah! But as the Canucks fan in me, I can't really celebrate because Jim Benning, in all of his mighty wisdom, has signed Tucker Poolman to a 4-year, $10 million contract with an annual cap hit of $2.5 million. Pew! Like, come on, Benning. Are you kidding me? Like, in what world is Alex Edler worth like 3.225 or whatever that contract is? For 1 year, you let your franchise leading defenseman of all time walk for like $3 million, and then you give 2.5 to Tucker Poolman. Canuck fans, Tucker Poolman is without a doubt the worst defenseman the Jets have iced in the last 3 years. He's worse than Nathan Beaulieu. Without a doubt, he is awful. He was only ever tolerable on the third pairing way back when he was very used in a very minor role, didn't play a lot, about 10 minutes or less a game, and he was a pretty consistent guy at times there, and he was able to put up a surprising amount of points. But nonetheless, him getting an increased role, even in that top four, was an abysmal performance night in and night out. He was a top pairing defenseman playing 20-plus minutes a time. Like, This doesn't make any sense to me. Tucker Poolman, this isn't exactly what I was talking about at the start of the video. If you're talking about a guy who actually absolutely lucked into a multi-year $1 million deal, Tucker Poolman, ladies and gentlemen, like, I love the guy. He's probably great in the locker room, and he seems like a great human being. And like I said, I'm not ripping on Tucker Poolman as a player, because honestly, if the Canucks signed Tucker Poolman to an $800K or maybe a $1 million deal for the next little bit, or even 1.2, I'd be upset because I still think that's a bit of an overpay, but that's good depth. The sign that but for me to see $2.5 million shouts out top 4 potentially. And if Jim Benning thinks this guy is going to be a solid top 4 for the Vancouver Canucks, then he has done more crack in East Vancouver than I ever thought he could. This is absolutely ridiculous. I don't understand this move for the Canucks. It's a horrible, horrible contract. It's just, he's going to be traded away probably by year 2 if I had to guess, because of how bad he's going to be. The Canucks fans are going to tear him to shreds. I know Nate Schmidt was bad, Canucks fans, but you have no idea what you're getting into in Tucker Pullman. So I hope to God he has a bounce back year for your guys' sake and for mine, because I sure as hell want to watch him on the Canucks. But with all that being said, I guess we have hindsight's 2020. We need to see how it will look after the year and into the year and how it works. But right now, as it stands, this is a huge yikes for me. And that's basically going to wrap up this video. You know, all of those players have left the Jets. Actually, wait, hold on. We cannot say that just yet. There are some more players we need to talk about. Those 2 minor leaguers that the Jets signed. You know what? I'm not even going to really talk about these guys. They've really never even played at the NHL at this point. They're just really good depth pieces, I feel like, for the Moose. You can't complain with that. So, yeah, nothing really special here. Who knows? Maybe there will be a Tornado 2.0 type situation where we get a guy who was not expected to be good, and then he turns out to be something, and we sign him after this year. Who knows what happens with the Jets? I trust Chevy sometimes with these random free agency guys, especially with the younger ones. We've had some in the past that have worked out, so maybe this one will too. I don't really know, but at this point, it's just basically Moose depth. But that's basically going to round up this video officially now. That's all of what the Jets have done currently at this moment in time at 7:35 p.m. Pacific. I haven't seen any other news break about Neil Pionk, so if I swear to God, if I record this video and see Neil Pionk, I'm going to be screaming. But with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know all your thoughts about free agency as a whole in the comment section below. I would love to hear your thoughts on the worst contracts of the day and the best contracts of the day. Let me know all your thoughts down in the comment section below. Make sure to follow me on Twitter. Link is in the description. Also follow and check out all my other affiliated links in the description as well. Peace, love, and positivity to all you beautiful people out there. I will see you guys in the next video very, very soon. Have a great rest of your day. Catch you guys later. Bye-bye. Go Jets, go. Jim Benning, go to rehab because Tucker Pullman is not worth $2.25 a season.